D&D players of Reddit, what emotional moment made your party tear up during a campaign? Let's hear your stories. I have a team of teenage-ish knights. They're adults in real life, but in the game, they are knights new to the order. Their first mission, they solved the murder of their fellow knight. More on that later. Not long after this, they met a young priest who was very supportive of them. Made them food, helped them solve some mysteries they needed help with, always told them that he was there if they needed him. They never really questioned it, and if they came close, he just told them, "It's my job to support you knights." 2 years into the campaign, in real time not game time, the priest suffered an accident and was injured. While injured, he called one of the PCs by the dead knight's name. Once he came to a short while later, the PC asked him about it. And the priest came clean, "We were in love." He detailed that their brother knight had been his partner for several years. They kept it quiet for the most part, because both were very private people. But their brother knight meant more to him than anyone in the world. When he was murdered, the priest couldn't grieve openly, because almost no one knew they were together, and because of the fact that he'd been murdered, those who did know they were together worried it would put a target on the priest's back. But since he is a priest, he was responsible for cleaning his beloved's murdered body, prepping him for his funeral, and the subsequent funeral. Which he did. All without anyone knowing his extremely intimate relationship to this young knight. He wanted to solve the murder himself but quickly realized he was out of his depths. So he spent 2 years in turmoil, wondering if anyone in this corrupt city would ever do anything to bring justice to him and his beloved. And then, one day, he found out they had. And he decided he would do anything he could to support these young knights. This game was online and I didn't want to fuck up the telling. I was so fixated on telling the one PC and on him. I saw that he was bawling, but then at some point, I looked up and everyone had muted themselves because they were all sobbing too. I had been planning that for over 2 years at that point and had held it in for so long, so the payoff was just amazing. That same PC also low-key began a relationship with the priest in more recent times, weary face, because they know just how to hurt me. The very end of a year-long campaign arc as we were wrapping up the goings-on after defeating the Beg's plans to dominate the city. The wizard had a very tearful moment. From his own built backstory, he was raised by his uncle after his parents and little sister died when he was about 8 When the campaign began, his part opened with the disappearance of his uncle. He later found that his uncle has discovered the Beg as the one who orchestrated the deaths of his parents and sister, and disappeared in pursuit of him. He later found evidence that his uncle failed, leaving behind a touching message allowing him to continue the pursuit. Along the way, he clashed with a rival wizard, the Masked Red Woman, who near the climax he discovered was really his lost mother, who was forced into helping the Beg who holds the soul of the PC's sister in a phylactery, threatening to use it up if she fails her duties. They continued to clash due to her fear of losing her daughter, but she clearly struggled with the idea of fighting her son. After defeating his own mother, non-lethally, he and the others pursued the Beg. They each had their own reasons for intervening in the Beg's plans. After thwarting the Beg, the wizard got to travel to an immaculate place of power, where together with his mother they were able to conduct a ritual to release his sister's spirit from its prison. They couldn't restore her, but they were able to say their goodbyes and give her final peace. The player was bawling his eyes out through the cathartic ritual, and it was one of the most touching moments I'd ever seen.
So, this took place in Horde of the Dragon Queen, where I was playing a halfling bard named Garrett. We had just infiltrated the flying castle and come upon the ancient white dragon protecting that horde in the basement. My buddy's character was a dwarf named Gilthur, whose village was destroyed by that very same dragon, and as we were trying to determine how to get the dragon away from the gold, he looks to the group and says, "Well, it's been an honor guys," and walks out to confront the dragon. They have a back and forth for a few minutes while we're trying to figure out what to do, until the dragon berates Gilthur for coming in alone. At this point I say sod it and cast whatever bard spell makes me look radiant and heroic, I forget the name. I stroll out and say, but he's not alone. Gilthuer looks to Garrett and says, "You don't have to do this, you know." And I tell him, "Tough nuts, I'm already here, I'm kit to slay things, let's do this." We have a long drawn out fight to kill the beast and manage to slay the dragon, but I was pretty much on the verge of tears the entire time since I had been playing this character for the better part of 2 years and was really attached, and all I knew going into that fight was that ancient dragons are supposed to be really tough. I was fully expecting a TPK or something. I think everyone else was pretty close to tears too, but don't quite remember everyone else since I was trying to avoid the happy breakdown of not losing a character. Had a party use their final genie wish to make a Yeti lawful good. Yeti becomes the party's pet and later sacrifices itself in a boss battle against the big bad, taking the BBEG's dragon with it. Most players got a bit teary-eyed, and Spaghetti the Yeti's death has been mourned ever since. Because it's December, it's about time to bust out the Spaghetti Christmas ornament one of the players made. One of the characters in my group is a strange, weird little mind demon. The demon was basically powerless unless another party member cleared him to act, so he was basically the comedic sociopath of the group. He became kinda beloved as the funny token evil guy. Until one day one of the children he'd long ago murdered and tormented into Shinik abominations came back for revenge. In an instant all that goodwill and happy laughter dissipated as the demon's bound character realized, oh, God, this was a demon the entire time I've been friends with. And suddenly the demon realized it had started to like all the laughter, and the smiles, and having these squishy human idiots around. What followed was a 20-session character redemption in which the demon slowly experienced guilt for the first time, started tentatively and confusedly starting to help others, and finally fought his own archdemon in a solo session to save the same girl he'd corrupted so many years ago. He comes back to the material world, and decides to lay this all out. He tells the party, I see, everything he's done, all the people he's hurt, and he gets ready to be cast off into the astral plane to float alone until some predator consumes him. And instead the party accepts him. The demon starts freaking out, asking them if they don't understand, asking them why they're acting like this, tells them he's a monster, and now they know who he really is. We always knew who you really were. Lots of group crying. And the best part is that all of them were Disney characters. The ending, their characters had to say goodbye to each other and reset the universe. Crying face. I had a group of online friends that were interested in D&D but never played before, and being the only one with experience, it was up to me to be the DM. Knowing it was going to be a train wreck, I prepared a few little plot hooks revolving around dogs for the fresh heroes to become accustomed with the mechanics of freeform roleplay. The first encounter had them becoming dog catchers to retrieve the apothecary's assistant who had been transformed after dropping a flask. The second encounter involved a group of herdsmen loosing their sheep to wolves. With the wolves hiding in dense woods, the party goes into a low visibility environment to chase after them. Not being able to see, and itching to kill something, the mage casts a fire spell and the first thing that moves and rolls a nat 20. Turns out it wasn't a pack of wolves, but a pack of stray dogs, and the mage had just barbecued a golden retriever. I intended it as a lesson that actions have consequences, but I think it hit him a little hard because he got really quiet after that. I never ran another game with that group. A bit late to this, but I ran an adventure with a false hydra. If you're unfamiliar, the false hydra is a monster that tricks people into not noticing that it's there, and when it eats someone it eats everyone's memories of that person. The town had lost dozens of people, but no one had noticed anything was wrong. The creepy horror adventure starts off like normal, the party splits up to take care of town business, they get in weird situations, weird bits of missing time, then everyone wants to bug out. Most of the party is at their inn, when the tag-along kid NPC who occasionally joins them walks in with tears streaming down his face. Where's my sister? Party freaks out, Asks what sister? I. I thought. I'm sorry, what? More freaking out, they head to their rooms to grab their stuff and bug out, but there's an extra bag. They find a journal they recognize as the kid's drawing notebook, but it only has his drawings in the back 20 or so pages. The front few pages are a notebook from a young, adventurous girl, just come of age, who writes about their adventures. Through her eyes, they see someone they can't remember who seemed to admire each of them in turn. As they finish reading, the kid walks into the room and asks them what's going on. Cue tears from half of them.